Am I the a-hole for refusing to lend my best friend $1,000 and $1,000 after discovering she was planning a luxury vacation? I, 30M, have been friends with Rachel, to 9F, for over a decade. We met in college and instantly clicked. Our group of friends always joked that Rachel was the wild one. She was spontaneous, carefree, and a bit of a free spirit. But while the rest of us settled into more traditional careers, Rachel stayed in her live-in-the-moment mentality. She bounced from job to job, never staying long enough to build any real stability, and while we'd all moved on to more stable lives, Rachel seemed stuck in a cycle of quick thrills and poor financial decisions. Despite this, she was one of my closest friends, and I always tried to be there for her. Over the years, I helped her out with small loans. $200 for rent here, $300 for a car repair there. She always had some excuse her job didn't pay enough, she had to cover an unexpected expense, or someone else bailed on her. I didn't mind too much at the time because it was never a huge amount and I cared about her. But as time went on, her requests for money started to wear me down. Fast forward to a few months ago, Rachel called me one evening in absolute hysterics. She told me she had been diagnosed with a serious medical condition that required surgery. Her insurance would only cover part of it, and she was on the hook for the remaining $15,000. She needed $10,000 from me to make up the difference. She said she had already tried everything else, loan applications, asking her family, even selling some of her stuff, but she was out of options. The way she told the story, she made it sound like this surgery was life or death. I was concerned, and honestly, my first instinct was to help. I mean, $10,000 is a lot of money, but this was someone's health we were talking about, someone I'd known for years. If this surgery could save her life, how could I say no? Still, something felt off. Rachel didn't go into detail about the surgery, and when I asked her for more specifics what exactly was wrong, what hospital she was going to, when the surgery was scheduled, she got vague. She mentioned something about her heart, but she wasn't clear. I let it go for the moment, figuring that she was probably too overwhelmed to talk about it. Before committing to anything, I decided to talk to a mutual friend of ours, Megan, 31F, just to get another perspective. Megan is more grounded and always has good advice. I casually asked if Rachel had mentioned anything to her about her surgery, and Megan immediately looked confused. She said Rachel hadn't said a word about needing surgery, but she had been talking a lot about planning a huge trip to Europe. Apparently, Rachel was planning to hit all the major spots: Paris, Rome, Barcelona. She had been raving about it for weeks. My stomach dropped. I didn't want to believe that Rachel was lying, but everything felt off. I decided to do a little snooping on social media, and sure enough, there it was. Rachel had been posting about the trip, fancy hotels, expensive restaurants, and even a picture of her non-refundable flights. She had been planning this trip for months, and yet she had never mentioned it once when asking for the loan. Feeling betrayed, I confronted her. I called her up and asked point blank, "Why are you planning a luxury vacation if you need $10,000 for surgery?" She got defensive immediately. She claimed that the trip was something she had already paid for, and that she was planning to cancel it to cover her medical expenses. But when I asked why she hadn't mentioned the trip before, she started accusing me of not trusting her. She said I was prying too much, and that I was making her feel like a burden for asking for help. I told her straight up that I wasn't comfortable loaning her $10,000 when it seemed like she wasn't being honest with me. At this point, she flipped. She accused me of being selfish and uncaring. She said I was putting money before her health, and that a real friend wouldn't hesitate to help out in such a serious situation. She even brought up all the time she had been there for me over the years, which, if I'm honest, didn't amount too much beyond emotional support. After an intense argument, I told her no, I wasn't going to give her the money. She hung up on me, and for the next few days, I was bombarded with angry texts from her and some of our mutual friends who only knew her side of the story. Rachel told them I was refusing to help her in a life or death situation, painting me as the villain. A few friends reached out to ask what was going on, and when I explained the Europe trip, most of them were shocked but sympathetic to Rachel, saying she probably was just stressed and hadn't thought things through. Then, the bombshell dropped. A couple of weeks later, Rachel didn't cancel her Europe trip. Instead, she went on it. She posted non-stop on social media selfies under the Eiffel Tower, fancy meals in Rome, lounging by the beach in Barcelona. She was living her best life while supposedly needing a surgery that I was guilt-tripped into funding. It was all too much. At that point, I knew I made the right decision. But the fallout was hard. Some friends still sided with her, claiming that I overreacted and should have just helped her out since she was going through a hard time. Others agreed with me, realizing that Rachel had been manipulative. Megan, in particular, was furious and stopped talking to Rachel altogether. Rachel hasn't spoken to me since. No apology, no explanation, just radio silence. I'm left feeling like I was put in an impossible situation, wanting to help a friend, but not wanting to be taken advantage of. So, am I the a-hole for refusing to lend my friend $10,000 after I discovered she was secretly planning a luxury vacation?